Hello, welcome back, my friends. I'm so happy to have you here and just thank you for listening. I am doing something a little different. I think I said in the last episode, I just haven't had like the creative capacity to regularly record my episodes. And it's been so interesting to just kind of honor that and see what comes up and see what doesn't come up. And so today, I really just want to share my experience about being a manifesting generator, what it was like to learn about my human design type, how it's helped me become intuitive and open up my psychic gifts. And then I want to talk a little about all the types because I want to share the goodness of just understanding how your aura operates and just giving a different perspective of like, how can this information serve me? Because I know not everyone is interested in getting like their chart read or like diving into all things human design. So I want to take just one part, which is usually the most heard of, the most like general concept of human design, like one layer, right? Like, so this surface layer of human design, we're going to dive into and just kind of take this intuition twist on it. And I would love to do that by just sharing my experience. So, of course, I'm going to talk more about being a manifesting generator than any other type, but I do want you to know that this example and the way that I integrate and just kind of experiment with my type can be used with any of the types. Obviously, it might look a little different, but this is something that I do with my work as well, is helping people understand how their energy operates and maybe some things that they can shift and change and experiment with that will only help bring harmony to what you already have. So, okay, I learned about being a manifesting generator. Obviously that's one of the first things you learn when you run your charts. It's like the top thing listed. And when you Google stuff, when you research stuff, so I entered the human design world early 2020. It might have been like the end of 2019, actually. And so I was Googling a lot. I wasn't really set on purchasing anything because there was so much to purchase that I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if this is where I want to purchase. So it took me a little while to find somebody who I actually wanted to invest in. And in hindsight, I love that because I got a best friend out of this. I got a mentor, a coach, and I found her and she really connected me. Well, actually, like I was connected with her. But yeah. So anyway, I had read a lot about being a manifesting generator before I got a reading or anything like official about like my flavor of being a manifesting generator. And I talk about this a lot in my work, is like I could be like I could know other manifesting generators and like I might see some resonance and like we might relate on a lot of things, but there's also a ton of things that we wouldn't relate on because our flavor or how we're made up as a manifesting generator may be completely different. So that's with any type. If you're a manifestor, you might be a completely different, you might have a completely different authority, but the way that your energy is a manifestor could be made up completely different than the manifestor sitting next to you and all the other types. So it was interesting to see like all these definitions of what it meant to be a manifesting generator. And a lot of the things in the beginning, I was just like, okay, like it kind of feels generic, it kind of feels like, well, of course I have this energy. Of course I have this need to like change my mind and change direction. And that was the blanket kind of statement I got as a manifesting generator, is like, we're here to like follow our bliss and like really just change directions quickly if I need to. And it serves me to not just like commit to something and stick with it just because I said at one point I wanted to commit to it. So I kind of went into that, into like this reading, and I paid for some mentoring. And so I was kind of like, whatever about my type. But one thing that was really clear for me is like, okay, I'm not going to have the energy to do what I want to do if I'm first showing up doing things that I think I have to do, somebody else put on my to-do list, or if I think I have to do it for somebody else, but it's not giving me anything in exchange. And that was huge for me because I was like, I don't know what I do for myself. And I was, when was this? 20? So I was like 30 something years old. I don't even know. I got to figure that out. Early 30s. And I was like, I don't know what I do for myself. And that's when I realized, okay, I'm probably not really following this strategy of being a manifesting generator. And that's where I'm hitting a lot of what they call the not self theme for a manifesting generator. It's frustration and anger, because the manifesting generator, it operates a lot like the generator, but there's these manifesting qualities about it as well, where it has that motor to throat connection. And so the not self theme could come through from the manifestor or the generator for the manifesting generator. So I was like, okay, like I get this. I had this connection to the frustration, and I started connecting these pieces of like how I'm showing up to things and like how I'm committing to things, how I'm deciding to do things, and how it affects my energy. Like it was like, oh, it was like a light bulb, right? And so really just experimenting with like my yes, no. So I'm actually an emotional authority. So I had to learn about that, but I don't want to get into authority. But as a sacral being, a manifesting generator, or if you're a generator, I really started experimenting with my yes or no for things that I've already been doing. This was big. Like I wasn't trying to tune into this authority or like this yes, no wisdom for things that like I was yet to decide on, because I was like, I don't even know if I'm clear about what I've already committed to. And as I was learning about being a manifesting generator, I was like, if I'm committing to things that I don't want to, like there's no space for me to change. Like there's no space for me to bring in new things. Like I got to get rid of this stuff first. And so I started experimenting with the yes, no. And I was like, this aura of mine, the manifesting generator aura, it is operating like the generator aura. So if you're a generator, they're both aura types are like open and enveloping, and they really expand when you are following your bliss, when you're doing the things that your sacral is saying yes to. Like that's why it expands. We have that sacral energy, and we're following like what is lighting us up, like what we want to do. Then our aura is expanding. And so we're actually magnetic, because as our aura expands, more of like that same frequency, this is manifestation too, but we're attracting more opportunities. So that's why generators and manifesting generators, we're here to respond, because our aura expands as we are responding to things that are aligned with us. So I was like, okay, I get it. At this moment, it was probably like a couple months into like this program that I had signed up for, and we were doing some human design work. And it was a couple months in where I was like, wow, I can really feel when my aura is expanding, and I can feel when it's not. And the difference of who I am in those situations, like in those two environments, I want to say, is huge. My confidence is different. My ability to trust myself is different. My energy, like physical, how I feel, like I keep wanting to say energy, but like exhausted or not, it all made a difference. And so a lot of the early stages of learning, like, okay, this is new information to my mind, but it's not to my energy. My energy wants to operate in this way. So where am I stopping myself? Well, I'm stopping myself because I'm still committing to these things that I know I don't want to do. So I'm draining myself. Then I was like rearranging things in my day where I'm like, okay, if I need more energy to do this creative work, or I need more space to do this, how can I rearrange my day to do things that actually give me energy before the things that I need the energy for? And it was this big experimentation. And I'm like, if I'm not paying attention, if I'm not doing the things that light me up, then I'm not going to receive, like, it's not going to feel expansive for me. My life is not going to feel abundant. And that was a big key for opening up my intuition and psychic gifts. If I am busy, like with my head down all the time, not paying attention, and I'm just doing things because they're on my list to do, I will say I'm not as intuitive. My psychic gifts are pretty shut off if I'm just going. And I know that sounds like so basic and simple, but as a manifesting generator, like, this is big, because if I'm not paying attention and I'm just doing things, then I'm not honoring like what it is that I actually desire. Because as a manifesting generator, I might be really committed to something and excited, but something else might come up that I need to be giving my energy to that actually might be more exciting, and it might be more giving to me. But I won't know if I'm not paying attention, and if I'm not willing to change directions, if I'm not willing to say, you know what, this was great. I love this. It served me. I had my experience with it, and now I need to move this way. And one that takes some confidence, that takes trust, that's very brave. And I will say, a lot of my life, I felt shame for ever doing that. And it wasn't necessarily because people said things or whatever. I mean, maybe they did, I don't know. But it was a matter of, there's this conditioned belief that if you commit to something, you have to follow through. And of course, like, there's like commitments, and like there's moral, right? Like, there are moral choices, and there's things that like love and with your tribe, like, you're gonna commit to and you're gonna stick with if that's your choice, and if like that's how you see it to be the best choice for everyone or for you in that moment. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about things that you've committed to for yourself that maybe you're like, okay, this isn't what I want anymore, but you're still committing to it because of the fear of rejection, the fear of failure, the fear of the labels, the fear of what people might think of you, the fear of what you might think about yourself, the fear of then what's next. There's so many people staying stuck in situations because of these fears, and because they don't think that they have the ability to just decide something else. I always knew in my core that I had the ability to change my mind. But that doesn't change, the beliefs and the doubts and the fears that come with that. I've oftentimes moved in fear regardless, and I will thank my manifesting generator energy for that. And now that I am aware of that, I can release the guilt and the shame for ever wanting to quit anything ever. Because it does not serve me to stick in something that I no longer lights me up. And it does not serve anybody else that is involved for me to stay in that situation if it doesn't light me up. And that was a lot to unpack, to release, to give myself permission. It's like, learning about this was a total like validation to my heart. I was like, oh my gosh, like, no wonder I don't want to do the same thing forever. Like, no wonder I just like sometimes am so committed to something, but then I'll like get a glimpse of something else and I'm ready to go. Like, there's a lot of opinions about that. Oftentimes manifesting generators, like, the association, like the label of the kind of shadow side is being flaky, right? Not being able to commit to things. And like, I relate to that. I really do. But in your core when it's like, this is no longer for me. And then having that self-confidence and that trust to say, it's not for me. So I'm going to release it. I'm going to trust that something better, something else is coming in that is more aligned. That is just my next level, right? So all of this as a manifesting generator, I was like, oh, I really need to rework how I'm thinking about things. I need to forgive myself for a lot of things that I felt guilty about. And I really just need to live a life where I have space to observe. like to do the things that light me up, but still pay attention. I cannot do that if I choose to live on autopilot, on, like on a to-do list all the time. Don't get me wrong, like I love lists. I'm a Virgo. I love knowing what I got going on. But I can't say what's the next thing, what's the next thing? Because then I'm stuck over here when I pick my head up and I'm like, oh shoot, I actually meant to be over here. So as a manifesting generator, it just taught me to like stop initiating things. Like I have manifesting energy. I have this urge to initiate a lot of things. And sometimes it feels like I'm initiating, but I'm actually responding. So there's kind of like this catch there. But if I feel like I'm always initiating or I'm always trying to get stuff going, I know that I'm at this place where I'm like, wait, like like, am I trying to force something? Because if I'm not responding, then like I might be forcing something. And that's when I kind of have these moments like, what am I responding to? Like, did somebody say something? Is this a need from somebody? Am I responding to something within me? Am I responding to my guides? Like, there's so many possibilities, but to take a step back and say, like, what energy am I coming in this with? Like, all my projects that are like creative and fun, it's like in response to something. And if like, I don't always have to know what it is, but it does bring an extra layer of clarity. So just really allowing my body to guide me, to pay attention, to see what lights me up. Like I can't get lit up by things if I already decided that things aren't going to light me up. like, like, you know what I mean? I don't know if that's clear. Like it seems so basic, but in order to live this intuitive life, I had to learn that my energy operates in this way where like it's kind of like this boiling pot and you throw some things in and it like gets bigger and you throw some other magic in and like you just figure out what's going to keep it going. And that's my energy. I figure out what keeps it going and I keep doing that, you know? And then it's like clear when new information comes in and it's how I keep my channel clear. I guess that's kind of the theme of like how to keep a clear channel based off of your aura. So I definitely want to get into the other types because I want to provide some context for everyone. If you're a manifesting generator, I hope like some of the pieces that I shared make sense for you. And we can just really, I'll touch on this too, but the manifesting generator aura operates like a generator. It's open, enveloping, both here to respond. So as far as being intuitive, you're going to be not always initiating this intuitive knowing, right? Like the intuitive knowing might be in response to something. So asking yourself questions, being asked questions is a great way too. So if you have a good friend that doesn't really ask questions to get to know the answer or like to know necessarily, but kind of like that sounding board for you. They don't have to know details either. It's a matter of just like asking the right questions to allow your intuitive knowing to respond to. Because as a sacral being and that enveloping aura that is expanding as you are following the things that are yes for you, more is going to drop in. And so knowing what to respond to is going to be important. And that's where your authority and discernment really comes in. But part of being intuitive for us sacral beings is just paying attention. Like you have to pay attention and allow things to drop in. And it might not all drop in at the same time. So knowing, right? This is where that discernment comes in, but also like psychic responsibility. Okay. It's not all black and white. So how are you responding to things? What is it leading you to? I think like for generators, there's this like mastery. So like, what is this like leading you down the road to master to? Okay. And your intuitive hits aren't all going to be about mastery, but I want you to think about like the depth of your intuitive knowing might be a little bit deeper than somebody who is here to just kind of like penetrate or like get a dose of what's going on in the environment, which I'll get into next. So specifically manifesting generators, I would say, I mean, everyone's intuition is like random. Like you can't try to predict what your intuition is telling you. But as a manifesting generator, like even more so, one of my favorite affirmations is like, show me what's possible. Allow me to witness miracles. Like, I'm ready for a miracle. However you want to say it, like the surprise effect, right? Like if you're always trying to plan like what's coming next, like you're not open for your intuition. I'll just tell you that. Like planning as a sacral being, as a manifesting generator, you're closing off pathways if you're over planning. And to really know what over planning is, like that really depends on you, right? Like I plan, but I always leave room for like what I want to do. So I'll plan like different topics, or like I'll plan different like focuses, and then I'll work within that. And that allows for me to remain open. So yeah, I kind of touched on generator at the same time. The thing with generator is the difference, I would say, is like some intuitive knowings are going to, for a manifesting generator, might feel like you're jumping ship. It might feel like, well, what does that have to do with anything? And it does. Like there's this trust that all the pieces are moving together, and that's for everyone. But I notice like as a generator, your intuitive guidance is a little more linear. And so that's something you can kind of just be open about. That does not mean predict things. That does not mean like you can expect things to show up in the same way, but it's more of like a storytelling. And I relate that back to kind of like going at your own pace. Like you need to go at your own pace, and your intuition is going to help guide that. And so it's going to like kind of feel like it's dropping in information that feels pretty linear for you guys. So I think that's everything for generators, manifesting generators. I want to move on to the manifestor. Because your guys' aura is a little more closed, it's pushing, it's just a little more protected. And the reason why that is because you guys are here to initiate. Like you have this vision, like you'll get these urges and visions that really are just like gonna go like poke the bear, like I'm here to initiate, right? And so it's a little bit of this energy of like, that's not normal. Like you kind of just sense this like different aura coming in the room. And if you know a manifestor, you know that they're just like, it's like bold energy because it's different and it's here, and it's like you can't really ignore it, but you also can't like push them too much because there's this need for them to be different. Like they're not here to conform. So when we think about that operation and your intuition, I almost see like the manifestor intuition as like this protective little ball, and like it, or maybe like this dome, right? And their intuition is so connected to them that like, I mean, everyone's is, but I see like the manifestor intuition as just being like delicate, as it being like nobody else would understand it. And that's so true, like for everyone, right? Like all this stuff that I'm saying about intuition, like you might resonate with it. Like even if you're a generator, you might resonate with something that I say as like the manifestor or projector, and don't ignore that, because we all have our own pieces of each type. So as the strategy is initiate for manifestors, it's really about paying attention to what is like sparking that fire. Like what's like sparking you that's like, ooh, like that's exciting and different. Maybe a little bit like you just kind of know like that's not something that's been done before. And not saying that like all manifestors, your intuition is like a rebel, or like you have to go, start something new, but that really is your energy. And so it might feel like that. And your intuition might not always feel clear if you're set on how does this need to be done? How has this been done before? Right? So things to think about in that sense is, am I trying to predict how this needs to play out? And am I trying to like figure this out too far in advance, where I'm not allowing like any creative urges to come in? So space, again, rest is really important. If the manifestor is burnt out, like you're not going to receive intuitive downloads. Like you're not giving space for that urge or that knowing to come in. So honoring the body's rest, right? The manifestor doesn't have a defined sacral, so they don't have that necessarily consistent, reliable access to energy to go. So the discernment needs to be really clear, and that's going to help clear that channel. Doing things that are lighten them up, like it's the same, right? Like they have to be very discerning. Manifestors need to be very discerning about where you're putting your energy. And if you're burnt out and if you're doing things just to get it done, or because you can't, like you think you have to, or you don't have support, that's really just gonna like clog up your aura for any intuitive downloads. Okay. Next up, I want to talk about projectors. And projectors' aura is very focused. It's penetrating. So this is like very different than what we would say like the expanding aura of a sacral being is. And the reason why it's so focused is the projector is really here to see like what it is for what it is. And this is including other people. They can really see through other people. And it's this gift that they have. And there's this ability to see things for what it is through energy. And because of that, there's this need to be recognized and invited. And I've noticed like with intuition and projectors is like you either claim it or you don't. And that makes a huge difference. So like I know some other people who I'm like, you are so intuitive, and they're like, no, I'm not, but they really are. And they live this intuitive life, and they're not a projector. I will say that, because if I said that to a projector and they're like, no, I'm not, they would not be living an intuitive life. I don't know if I even made sense there, but as a projector, to be intuitive, the biggest thing is to claim being intuitive, is to recognize yourself as an intuitive. Because if a projector wants anything, wants to manifest anything, wants to claim anything, it is first to recognize it in themselves, and then to make themselves available to be recognized and invited by the correct people. And so for intuition, right, we're going to kind of leave the invitation part out, but for intuition, it's huge that you recognize yourself as an intuitive. And as you start showing up that way, other people are going to recognize you as an intuitive. And as a projector, you're actually going to be a guide. Like if you live an intuitive life, whether this is your career or not, like you are going to help people be intuitive. And it's like, you're also probably going to be a little bit triggering in that sense of where people aren't intuitive. Like you're going to be able to see it where they didn't listen to themselves, you know? So having this need to be recognized is a blessing for you, because I mean, and invited, because this gift is something that like it's natural. So you, of course you want to give it, but having that invitation and knowing that you're going to like have that recognition for your gift, it's like, that's where you want to be. That's how you want to be spending your energy. And that's where you feel success. So the opposite, the not self theme for projectors is success, because the bitterness is the not self theme. So anytime you think about like, okay, maybe I gave my advice where it wasn't wanted, or they weren't ready to hear it, and there's this little bit of bitterness there. And so waiting for that invitation, or knowing that you have been recognized and are invited, that's where you get to like allow your intuition to really thrive. And it's because you recognize yourself as being an intuitive. So same with manifestors. It's like honoring your body's rest is going to help keep your vessel open, be really discerning about who you're helping, who you're guiding, what you are committing to, because anything that you're not committing to, and that kind of feeling of that not self, like bitterness, or you're not like recognize or like have that value seen, then you're gonna like kind of clog up the channels of intuition. It's like a distractor, right? Same for all the other types, is like any not self theme that you kind of get stuck in, just know it's like a distractor for your intuition. And it's just an indicator that something needs to be shifted. And it might just be your energy. And then lastly, we have reflectors, and their aura, of course, is sampling. So reflectors have no definition, have no centers defined. So they are here to reflect what's going on in the environment, and they are sampling the energy of the environment. And so for intuition, the environment's huge for reflectors. And what I recommend is, like, if you're just learning about your type and you learn that you're a reflector, is to experiment with your environments, get really clear on, like, have a journal or some type of way that you are documenting on how you feel in different environments around different people. And like, I would get even more detailed of, like, what does the clarity feel like? What does it feel like to be clear and like knowing what you want to do? Who are you making decisions for? How are you making decisions? And just give yourself like this base knowledge of how you've been showing up. Because I think the most important thing for a reflector is just know where they feel the most connected to themselves. And you're not going to know this until you start thinking about it and you start actually paying attention in different environments. And you might feel like the more you pay attention to this, the more places you can go to receive different information. And it's about being that clear channel. And so just know, like, anytime you're around other people, you're absorbing their energy. I mean, we all are. I would say any type, like your intuition, like, experiment in different environments, but it's more important for the reflector to really understand how they feel in different environments. And this could be, you could even look into your human design environment, but like different geographical locations will affect you as well. And the strategy for a reflector is to wait a lunar cycle. So keep in mind that I would experiment with how you feel in different environments over the course of a month, and know that, like, your intuition doesn't wait. Your strategy is to wait, but your intuition doesn't wait. So set an intention, like intention setting, and just having really clear boundaries is important for everyone, but especially the reflector, of what information do you want to receive? Who do you want to receive it for? Just get really clear on your boundaries and your intentions, because otherwise you might be receiving intuitive information for those around you, the places around you, having somebody to like talk to as well, not to receive intuitive information, but just kind of like clear the clutter. You know what's going on with other people. So if there's information that comes through about that, you might know that then, okay, it's not for me. And then, yeah, just like have that sounding board. But I would say experiment with like little things in your own environments, and then reflect on, like, how does that feel? Because your intuition is going to feel fun. Like, for the reflector, it's going to be playful. It's going to be surprising. Like, if you are a reflector, allowing the environment to just show you, like, allow yourself to be surprised, is really embodying your reflector energy, because then you're able to reflect and just be in different energy than what you might think going into it. And just surrendering to your environment. So I think for the reflector, the intuitive gift is being this malleable, energetic being. And so intuition might come through in multiple ways. You can be highly intuitive if you really direct your energy and set intention with it. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the reflector. Environment's huge. I got to keep saying that. Environment's huge, and really reflection and just kind of waiting it out. Like, bigger decisions, you want to wait it out longer throughout that lunar cycle to see how you feel. But that's, your intuition's not going to wait. So if you have this intuitive nudge and knowing, then that's where you have that discernment and decision of, like, okay, is this something that I'm going to act on right now? And use your intuition to guide you through that. So, okay. Yeah, I think that's it. I wanted to just share this because basic, I want to say basic. There's so much information and just understanding your type. I feel like I probably could have even gone more, but one layer of human design really opened up a ton of just understanding and acceptance and validation for me that gave me the confidence and trust to just say, like, well, what if I do it this way? To do things differently. That's really what this is opening up to. And remaining open, paying attention and observing. That's like for all the types, but I really wanted to give some context of like how your aura type might influence that. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. A little bit different episode. And I kept it a little bit shorter. I'm trying to do like 45 minutes or less. So, all right. We're going to wrap up there. I hope you all enjoyed. And if you did, I would love for you all to share on social media. You can just take a quick screenshot, share it. You can tag me at the Intuition Playground. Also, I've been hanging out on TikTok lately. If you want to find me over there, it's the Intuition Playground on TikTok as well. And yeah, I would love it if you guys gave a review and rating for the show. That's so helpful just to get the show out to more people and just more visible. And if you do that and send a screenshot of the review or rating to info@theintuitionplayground.com, I will send you a mini reading from myself. All right. We're going to wrap up there for today. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and we will talk to you next time on the Intuition Playground.